Hi parents, in part one of Understanding Word Problems for pre-K through second graders, we talked a little bit about the different kinds of strategies kids use depending on how a word problem is worded. There's been a long misconception that kids at this age can only do addition and subtraction problems, as I modeled in part one, but kids these ages can actually think about all kinds of problems. So I want to show you an example of what most adults would think about as a division problem, and then we'll take a look at some ways that kids might think about these problems in two different ways. Take a look at these two problems that most adults would think about as division problems. For many kids, the first problem lends itself to thinking about sets of threes. So most kids would count out 12 counters and then put them in sets of three and then count how many groups of three they could make. The second problem really lends itself to a dealing strategy. So again, many students would put out 12 counters and then deal them out into 3 different cupcakes. So they would just keep dealing them out until all of the M&Ms were used up to see that 3 cupcakes using all M&Ms could hold 4 M&Ms on each cupcake. This problem could easily have become a multiplication kind of a problem. Although kids wouldn't necessarily see it as multiplication, they certainly would be able to model what they hear in a problem. So for example, I might say, Tabitha had 4 cupcakes and she put 3 jelly beans on each cupcake. Or Tabitha had 3 cupcakes and she put 4 jelly beans on each cupcake. How many jelly beans did she need altogether? Kids can model these in all kinds of ways, and it's not really about teaching them a strategy. It's about providing opportunities for them to be thinkers and to use counters as necessary to construct and model their own thinking. And they can do this in all different kinds of operations when it makes sense to them and we're using numbers that they're comfortable with. It's important to remember that some kids will model this kind of problem or any kind of problem in other ways. For example, there's a lot of evidence that many kids prefer to draw a model. So a model for the example that I just showed might look something like this. In the first example with the M&Ms and the cupcakes, a child might draw out the 12 M&Ms, and because the problem said that each cupcake would have 3 M&Ms, a child might do something like this. Circle 3, and then 3, and then 3, and then 3. Other kids might have other ways to show that. In the second problem that we modeled a few minutes ago, we knew that there were 12 M&Ms and we knew that there were 3 cupcakes, and in that case a child was trying to determine how many M&Ms could go on each cupcake. I've seen students solve this in many different ways using a dealing strategy typically. So they might do something like this with paper. They might say, well, this M&M goes here, and this M&M goes here, and this M&M goes here, and they would continue drawing arrows until they used up all of the M&Ms. I've seen other kids that might X out an M&M and then draw it in there. X out the next one and then draw it. X out the next one and then draw it. But kids often like to draw instead of using manipulatives. So I hope you got some great ideas for thinking about how you can use word problems in everyday situations to help your kids at home think about how to unpack a word problem, because this is really going to be the foundation for them to address word problems throughout all of their elementary years. So again, thanks for stopping by for part 2 of Understanding Word Problems, and I hope to see you next time.